2FA is dead or almost, and what's next, right? So maybe just to give some context there, it's just to have a sign of what's happening. We had COVID that was unprecedented for the last 2 years, right, 2020 to 22, and we have seen a few different things happening during COVID when it comes to digital identity. First, you have a big shift from offline to online activities. What does it mean? It means that how we present ourselves online is different when we present ourselves offline. We just don't present an ID card like that and just we are accepted on the platform. So what happened is that we had the digitalization of the customers that accelerated by 3 to 4 years. That's according to McKinsey. I don't think you need to be analyst, a company to understand that, but definitely we have seen a big shift and COVID has accelerated that. We have seen also a huge increase in global e-commerce transaction. It increased by 20% compared to the previous years, and we have seen it continues. I have new figures there that shows it's still really growing, and people are really adopting to do their shopping online. And then, very interestingly, the fraud before 2020 and 2021 was really geared towards actually bots. We have a lot of different type of attack, but all these attacks were usually bots driven, right, script and so on. And the fraud during the pandemic and still now started to actually be human driven. And human driven is complicated to detect. Human driven fraud is actually not easy it's unpredictable, it's not easy to catch because we are some very weird creature when it comes to doing some frauds. So this has been really a big shift also in how to apprehend fraud and how to deal with it. Talking about fraud, if you look at the numbers that companies, enterprise, government are losing every year, right, in towards frauds, I just take just one number, cybercrime, just cybercrime overall. It's a 7 trillion, I would say, call it total addressable market of people working in fraud, but this is a loss of $7 trillion in 22. $7 trillion, it puts it at the first largest country in the world if you look from a GDP perspective. That alone is memorandizing. But if you look closely in this $7 trillion, so these cybercrimes include data breach, ransomware, they include a lot of different things. But if you just look more closely to identity fraud, which is, for example, account takeover, which is one of the most popular kind of attack, that would be among the top 100 country in terms of GDP. We're talking about a $50 billion market there. And what are we doing, right, as professionals, as companies and enterprise working in that domain? We're still relying on SMS two-factor authentication, push emails, and voice PIN. That's what it is. So we have a $50 billion problem, and we are relying on actually a 30 years old technology. I think there is something broken there. I mean, and again, I've been in the two-factor authentication market for a very long time in mobile identity, and you see, I'm not just saying that SMS is bad. I think there is a lot of good things to happen with SMS, but I think from a digital identity perspective and authentication perspective on the market, there is something broken. But why did we pick first the SMS OTP instead of more robust solutions? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves, right? Why SMS? I think SMS has done a great job over the last few years, right? And let's not be just dark about it. I think the coverage, right? I think the coverage has been has been really driven, that has driven the adoption of SMS. Why? Because you have big companies like the Microsoft and Facebook of the world. What's needed is just ubiquity. And that is device agnostic. I have a solution in the US. I want to replicate that in Canada, in UK, in Australia, everywhere in the world. And this is the same thing, right? So I need coverage. I need also ubiquity in how it will interact with the users. I want the same kind of interaction for all my users across the world. And so that's where SMS has been a great tool and a fantastic vessel for that. Also, SMS is super convenient. People are reading SMS super fast. I mean, I'm very late in opening my emails, really late. But SMS, I know that I'm always opening my SMS, like within a few minutes. And this is also what plays a role on why not email. But email is not necessarily another solution we want to go through, right? But that's one of the reasons SMS has been adopted, among others. And then it creates strong habits, right? With standard protocol and so on, but also creating strong habits. And it's funny because for the last 5 to 10 years even, I've seen how do we get rid of SMS OTP? How do we get rid of it, right? Why should we rely on SMS OTP? And you think that it's going to disappear the next day. But no, because people are really attached to the SMS two-factor authentication. They like it. But there is a but, right? SMS is not all just glamorous like that. There is a lot of things that are happening in terms of fraud. We have seen SIM swapping. This is just in the US alone. Last year was $100 million problem, and this is just the US. You have interception, that is also another type of attack. There's smishing, the lack of encryption is also something worrying. Very dark and gray area, I would say, gray areas when it comes to international regulatory prices. So you have seen over the last years some prices multiplied by 3, by 4, 5, just for no reason, just because mobile operators decided it was a good time to get additional revenue. So that altogether, and I'm not even talking about artificial inflation, traffic, and so on, that is being a burden on SMS OTP and created a lot, like a parallel market where aggregators are just getting a lot of money out of account that doesn't exist. And so we are like, today, I think in 2022, 2023, getting out of the pandemic, seeing like there is massive adoption, digitalization of the world, coming from offline to online. There is more and more drivers for not necessarily saying goodbye for good to SMS OTP, but starting to shifting to new models, right? And that's important. That's really important. And these drivers for adoption, right, of new channel of authentication and identity are that now you're going to have 5 billion users that can have access to mobile internet. I think just in 2025, just 5 billion people will be connected all the time. And that's really something interesting from that perspective. It means that our device isn't just becoming an extension of ourselves for doing anything. And almost every single adult human on Earth will have the potential to get access to online services. The mobile usage growth is also increasing. Of course, the more people connected, the more usage growth you have. Payment has been increasing, and I understand that you guys, mobile payment has been certainly a topic you talk about. I'm not certainly the most qualified person to talk about it, but this is definitely something that is happening right now, right? People are paying. I can tell you, I have a 70 years old mom here in Belgium. She's doing her payment with PayPal, with some application from a banking application. I'm flabbergasted, amazed, would say, by it. It's incredible. So everybody in the population is starting to really go through the mobile payment things. It's growing, so it's undeniable. Breaches have been also growing a lot, and that has been really worrying. And from that perspective, we need to really pay attention from that, because we have all our information that they are on the net. If I remember well, some numbers, not just to throw things there, but we had around 27 billion data breaches and data available on the darknet at the time we speak. 27 billion type of data. So it can be your name, your first name, last name, your phone number, your IP address, your date of birth. A lot of things are circulating over there. We don't want to expose too much things there. And increasing scam, that's interesting. Between 2020 and 2022, 95% increase in scam. Most of these scam you might have received this type of call. Do you know about COVID relief? And now you can get actually $20,000 back. This is the kind of scam you see, but there's a lot of other different scams and very human geared, not bot gear as I was mentioning earlier. And some underlying driver are just like regulatory framework. Well, right, we are talking about GDPR. I was mentioning the data breaches and 27 billion type of data out there on the dark net. But if you don't share your data cannot be on the darknet. So you have regulatory framework that protect these data, that prevent them to be out in the wild, and you have Global Data Privacy Act. There is India that is going through that direction. There's also some countries like in Indonesia. If you look at things like in Brazil, Latin America has already passed the equivalent of GDPR. So there is a lot of things happening, and that actually are the drivers to change and just getting away from the SMS two-factor authentication. Oh, sorry, I've been enthusiastic on that one, my click. So what are the other solutions there? Before we talk about the solution, there is first thing we need to. You don't have like ubiquity like for everything. You need to have a solution. You have to sign up. So and the sign in. The sign up is really just I'm a brand, online brand. You are a user. I don't know you. I have no idea of who you are. We need to create this first link, first bound together, and that trust. And so this is what sign up is. Versus the signing, okay, are you still the same person? Yes, fantastic. We keep maintaining that trust between the two of us. So at the sign up, you have a few things that emerge over the last few years, like document verification. Scan has been there for a little while, and it's improving. I have seen in Brazil that in less than 5 to 10 seconds, they can get access to a government database, for example, get you on board, and just have fantastic result with that. So social media integration, that's a funny one. I hate that one, to be fairly honest. But when you want actually to sign on a new e-commerce, let's say, and to say you can use your Facebook account or your Twitter, your Meta and your X account. And actually, these guys, how do they do the onboarding with you? SMS2FA. So actually, there is something broken there. You have the feeling you get something that is secure. You have this feeling this is great, but it's not, because at the end, the social media have onboarded you with the wrong tools. Progressive profiling is also a new method you see more and more, where you don't ask too much information in the early steps, but you start to, once someone wants to do more interaction on your platform, this is where you start to get and collect more and more information from the user. And then you have very interesting things happening in initiative around decentralized identities, right, around blockchain. So this is definitely, there are things that are coming on board that was really interesting. And then on the signing, you have the extension of the few things we talked. There is the biometric authentication, single sign-on, passkeys, and I think I'm very bullish and I really love what's happening around passkeys. Another thing is header enrichment. There's been a bit around for a little while. There's been a bit complex to implement and to make it also like an ecosystem as the SMS has been driving. So there is good things out there, but there is things that need to, as I said, you need first to create trust, and then you need to maintain it. And there are different tools out there for that. Just doing a quick check on the timing. Alan, we're still good?
Yeah, you're still good.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to programmable communication, we have seen that a lot of the companies out there have been really thriving and doing the business through a lot of voice and SMS two-factor authentication. So it's not going to disappear overnight. But we know also we need to change these methods of authentication and onboarding and signing and so on. So what should we do, right? Let's not reinvent the wheel. We have, as the CPaaS communities, they have access to phone numbers. And phone numbers has this specificity that I really like. The phone numbers lives in two worlds, to the contrary of a lot of others identifiers there. What I mean by that is that when it comes to data, you have two types of data. You have the data that you can find offline, right? What I call the physical world. And then you have the data you can find in the online world. So in the offline world, you can have your name, your date of birth, your address, right? Physical location. This is the offline world. And then you have the online world. In the online world, you have the email, your IP address, your device IDs, your cookies, and your browsers, so many other things there, right? And the phone numbers is so specific that actually it lives in both worlds. You have not a lot of identifiers out there that can live in both worlds. And so this is why the phone numbers, and because of CPaaS, we've seen the phone numbers is really critical from that perspective. And that's an interesting one. So in our journey to learn about how to rethink about authentication, onboarding, and so on, there is this concept of building reusable digital identity, right? And making sure you can reuse that identity and create and tokenize identities. And so starting with phone numbers is a really good way to do that. And that's where CPaaS have a lot of opportunities, because they actually, over the last few years, they've been managing a lot of phone numbers across, and they have a database that is really powerful from that perspective. So again, you have the phone numbers that can become the main identifiers because of its ubiquity, stability. You don't change the phone numbers, all the time. The personal type, thanks to the phone number, I can have very accurate offline information of a user, but also their habits, online habits. And it's a gateway to expansion, because again, I'm not really just saying, we're going to only use the phone numbers to identify someone. No, but that's a perfect way to tie it to other identifiers. So I call it the gateway to expansion to other to other identifiers. So you can append some other identifiers like an email, an IP address, and device, for example. And that makes it really a good tool and vessel to increase and broaden the phone numbers, fingerprint. Sorry for that. Just the path forward. So for me, starting with the phone numbers for CPaaS and for building new identity product is really the key. And then you can start to append additional identifiers, and this is where you actually create value to your platform. We can see a few quick elements. You have some authoritative elements, right? Like the PII or like your social security numbers, which is an ID numbers. In the US, you have some public records, like also financial liens, you have your passport, driving license, different things also covered. I will not go through every single one of them, but this is where telcos can definitely help. And with your phone numbers, you can get access to these elements and start to really create a digital identity around the phone numbers and append all this information in a one single place. And that's really what matters today. It's really how can I conveniently identify someone through just one identifiers. I don't need to do document scanning. I don't need to do some complex biometrics things just for the onboarding. I don't need to have things that just do not make sense for the end user. Just want to keep some things simple. And this is where you have a lot of opportunities to append all of these things, and where telco can help with all these authoritative and contextual data elements. And just one thing, because we are talking about programmable communication, and I know there is some talk right after on passkeys, and I think there is opportunities for CPaaS and going into the passkeys environment, but there is also the header enrichment that is eventually a low-hanging fruit for the CPaaS. And what has been missing on the header enrichment over the last few years was really to have the same ecosystem that SMS A2P has benefited from. So this is about education, this is about making sure that the customers are aware of the opportunity, but before even the customers, is that to create that really dynamic ecosystem of vendors and CPaaS providers that can deal with actually header enrichment. We've seen Twilio that moved there with the acquisition of Boku. We have companies like Telesign also very active there, and you have many others on the market. It's just a couple of names, right? And this is where you see a lot of opportunities also to have header enrichment. Is header enrichment actually a silver bullet against all fraud? Not necessarily. It's not. But what I believe, it's still a good step forward. And why that? Because actually for CPaaS in the future, it's not that you're going to just offer SMS and voice pay, right? That's not the only thing. You need to acquire some level of orchestration where your customers can just do sign up, signing, they can change the passwords, they can do some account changes, and you have just actually a pool of different tools that can help them to do that. And at the center of that, you have the phone number. And that's what is super important for the CPaaS, is to move from the traditional two-factor authentication to a much more orchestrated and layered way of building digital identity. Any question?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Guillaume. Round of applause, please. So we have your contact details there. Because of time, because we're getting long on the agenda, what I'd say is, again, thank you so much. And your details are there so people can ask questions, but that was a great summary. Thank you so much, Guillaume.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Enjoy the rest. Bye.